Welcome back to a new episode of videogames.lu podcast. This time with another fighting game topic, and I'm joined here by my fighting game guys. The usual suspects. So we have Actor Roos,
Hey
aka
guys.
Alex, yeah. My brother Rod,
Yo,
and the boy Sulfura.
Yo, what up?
So we finally meet again. And yeah, what is the topic now? We wanted to talk a bit about our community. So, to be a bit more precise, how to get good in a small community like ours. But before I go into that, I wanted to tell a little bit of history of the Luxembourg FGC. Also because Actorus is a bit new in the scene, so he might not know everything. So it's a nice reminder.
he's our
Yeah,
little baby.
yeah, the newcomer.
The
Uh,
new
yeah. So yeah, how did it start? It was like 5 years ago. It started with Street Fighter Five, basically, right?
Yeah, that was because it was like there was something before we joined the FGC. So I don't know which year it was. I think it was something like 2015, 2016.
Yeah, but keep in mind we didn't have really a community like get-togethers. It was really
Yeah.
really small. I believe before we joined, there was the fighting corner in our monthly events, but it was
Mhm.
very small. And I think it boomed with Street Fighter Five. I believe most people came with that, and yeah, we grew from there. So slowly but surely, we got the how do you say? We became the leaders. We became the responsible, uh, the ones that have the responsibility for the fighting corner at a certain point.
Yeah, I
And
would say community leaders.
community leaders, yes. And yeah, from there on out, we were also part of the videogames.lu club, and we always organized events. Made it was weeklies, not weeklies, monthlies. Sorry. And sometimes we also had big events like Gameland. And throughout the years, we always grew, not in big numbers because it's still Luxembourg, right? So it's difficult to find people that are gamers, then it's difficult to find people that play fighting games, and then it's difficult to find people that stick to fighting games and want to get good and want to get competitive and so on. But over the years, I mean, in the span of these 5 years, we made our presence known also in our neighboring countries and in some parts of Europe, and we grew a healthy amount of size, we can say, right?
Yeah,
So that
compared to the beginnings, yes, I would say it's
yeah,
still not big.
so yeah, it's still not. I wouldn't consider it a big community, but a passionate one and a community that sticks together. You know.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so
Now
this
you all
is
got the picture.
yeah. Yeah, it's small. I won't go into more details because we also had our dramas.
Yeah,
But
there's always some drama.
I mean, yeah, but no, it was nothing big, right? No, it's
No,
I don't think it was something worth mentioning.
mentioning. No.
So
It's
okay.
all settled now.
So again, as I already mentioned, our community is very small, and so the topic of this podcast is, yeah, how to get good in such a small community. And my first questions to all of you is, first of all, let's start with a shocking one. Is it even possible to get strong in a small community? That is my question. What are your thoughts on that?
Is it possible to get good in a small community? Launching with a big question. Uh,
Yes or no, and why?
yes or no, and why? Mm, Strictly speaking, if you stick to that community and don't go anywhere else, I'd say it's possible, but it's really hard because at that point you become kind of the
You discover
you kind of
something?
become the person who has to navigate new terrain, who has to explore all the stuff by himself, and that's a lot of work. So if you do not have a big community where you can learn with others, you kind of have to find everything out by yourself, which is possible, but it's difficult and you have to put in so much work to get better. Whereas if you have a bigger community, you can exchange notes with people who already have experiences. Because when I play in a game, I have very limited experiences. I don't play the entire gambit of characters and playstyles that exist. But someone else might play characters or playstyles that I don't know yet. So we can exchange notes. I tell him, okay, you can be this with this, and he tells me, oh, you can be that with this. So you learn faster in a bigger community, or rather, you have the possibility to learn faster. But in a small community, it's not impossible, but I think it's really hard to improve by yourself or in a small community.
I mean that's one of the difficult points, right? Because you don't have much variety within a game, so you rely almost only on yourself, right? Maybe there's one guy or two guys that are really into that game, so you can play those. But yeah, mostly you rely on yourself, so you don't have this exchange of knowledge in the community.
Yeah, well, but you have to consider something else too, because in a small community, you also have big skill gaps. So if I'm teaching someone who's really new, I cannot play the game. I have to actually teach someone to play the game, because the skill gap is too big to learn something in a natural way, because he will be losing to stuff he doesn't understand. So if I want to teach someone, I have to stop playing the game. Whereas if you have a rival who is at the same skill, you can kind of learn by just adapting to each other all the time. So I think that also kind of makes it difficult in a small community, because the chance of meeting someone of your skill level is way smaller as well.
Yeah, that's the problem of the small community is just the numbers. You don't have the experts that can teach you the game. Sometimes it's hard, like Mike said, to find someone who has your skill level. And for me, this is the biggest disadvantage a small community has. And I agree with Rafura in this one. It's that it's not impossible to get stronger, but it's way harder, in my opinion. But there are some ways you can. I don't want to say cheat the system, you know.
Circumvent.
Yeah, circumvent it. Even though the numbers in your community are small, you still have some possibilities to go search somewhere else, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, we can go into more details afterwards about how you can improve. But I wanted to ask Actarus, seeing as he's a newcomer, fairly new, how do you see your improvement in our community? But I know also that you're not really that focused on getting good.
Yeah,
Um,
I think yeah, I think the right word would be like more a thing of consistency, and that's maybe the thing that I have to get maybe that I have to. I mean, it's just that I have to play more. That's the thing. So I would love to, but it's like investing time, investing energy, and and just figuring out not only playing but figuring out what I can do better. And yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you talked about that, because I mean, personally, I even if I would be like in contact with the community, like I mean, I am kind of. but I wouldn't know, where to begin and what would be the questions, like if you want to get better, how do you learn, from people? So for me, yeah, it's like I think I had like fairly a bit of progress during maybe the last year or something, a little bit, but
That's
still,
for us to that's for us to decide. No, it's okay.
no, but I can no, I can tell, but still, I'm still not, I'm not satisfied. I'm way beyond, way below the one, that I would like to have, like someday, like.
But do you think it's difficult if you want to get good in our community, or do you
I
see a chance? Okay, of course, now with Corona you can forget it, but once this whole thing stops and we can breathe again,
hopefully.
is there something that you say, okay, I don't know if I'm improving if I stay with this community, or is it just okay, I know who to ask, I know how I can I would say improve if I do this and that.
Well, let's just say that actually for now I love the community because I'm playing for the fun. So I take it maybe a bit more casually.
Yeah, which is
But
important too.
still, still I have like a need personally for me, to get better because I want to achieve a certain level. But then again, it's like you said, I have like contact with the community, but it's fairly new to me. So I have like I have problems figuring out exactly how and what. It's like what's the next step of of like when you're at a certain level. Sometimes people they know on what to improve, and sometimes it's like it's kind of you have like so many things you want to improve, but you don't know where to begin.
Okay, so overwhelmed.
Yeah, basically yes.
It's an interesting point because I think now I can add some positivity in this.
It's a bit gloomy, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. This is something that for us, and I would say for my brother and I, and in a certain extent also Mike in Street Fighter 5, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. It's easier for the stronger players to see the newcomers or the weaker players' weakness. Because the community is so small, everyone knows everyone, and so for me it's easier to see, okay, where is he struggling, is it fundamentals, is it execution, and I can give I say that tips.
Advice.
Advice, yes, yeah, thank you. I can easily give some advice because I also know him personally. So as a teacher, I would say it's easier, and I would think that in a bigger community, it would be a little bit harder to know everyone. Maybe you know everyone by name, I would say, but you don't know them really well like you would in a smaller community.
Yeah, so a small community can be more, how do you say, intimate, but it sounds a bit weird, but
What you
yeah,
doing with
but
the players?
I don't know. It's you have maybe closer relationships or closer friendships, and you have more time to focus on someone's weaknesses. It's like I don't know. I'm watching someone play, and I'm saying, okay, this one has problem with spacing. This one has problem with execution. But if you're in a big community and there are tons of people with tons of weaknesses, and you as the teacher, as the OG, in you have to find everything. But then again, in a bigger community, you have also more teacher types.
Yeah, that's true.
But it depends on the community, right? Because
Well, in a bigger community, you might actually have people who are willing to teach, because
that's
willingness to teach is something as well you have to consider with that. Because I happen to like to teach someone new things. So when I see a weakness or I see that I get away with something way too often, I will ask, hey, do you know how to deal with this? Because I can tell you, this is fake. I should not be able to do this. I can tell you what you can do. But that's me. I know people who just go to their locals and just want to play. And they don't want to teach other people as well. So, and it's not speaking against them really, because it's their time. But in a bigger community, you might have a bigger chance to actually find people who are willing to teach you.
And then again, teaching is not that easy also. So I also understand people who don't want to teach because actually it's not that I don't like to teach, but I see also my limits when I teach something. So I know that some players always call me sensei or like that, and I'm like, yeah. Or it was a specific example for KOF. Oh, you can teach me KOF once KOF 15 is out, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not that great of a KOF guy. I mean, I am the KOF guy in Luxembourg because yeah, we are three people who play SNK games, right? Uh, but I'm also struggling with the basics, right? But I'm confident enough to teach fundamentals in KOF and telling people what they should do. But if it goes beyond basics, beyond fundamentals, it's like, okay, buddy, I'm in the same boat now, right?
The teacher, you have
help me now.
the teacher. Yeah,
Yeah.
the teacher, you have to know way more than the students, like way more.
And it's
Also
difficult.
specific characters
And it's
so.
difficult to find someone like that in our community specifically. Do we have examples in our community
Of teachers, you say?
of really teachers like Reinhardt?
That one that comes to mind is is Mike. I would say.
But only in Street Fighter, right?
The boy Solve.
Yeah, only Street Fighter at that point, yeah.
Only Street Fighter.
And only up to a certain point, because I know that we have another strong Street Fighter 5 player in our community, and it's kind of hard to teach him stuff because he's at a point where I am more worried about myself, because if I don't watch out, he will kick my ass. So so he's good enough, so I have to focus on myself. But then I'm not focusing on him, so I cannot teach him in a way, if you get what I mean. So even if I like to teach someone stuff, it only goes up to a certain point.
Yeah, but
because then I'm also in the same boat.
But at this point, does this person need teaching from you then, if he's closer to your level?
Well, no, I can't just tell him bad habits, because that's what I'm mostly concerned with.
Yeah, I see it. I see it. Yeah, and this is something. Yeah, I wanted to go in this a bit more in detail, but we did afterwards. But we did it now. So yeah, teaching is also very important in communities, and it's quite difficult to find the teacher type in small communities, especially big experts. Yes, but how about there's also a point that we kind of touched on a bit, but I let it slide because we went to the teaching thing. But it was Actorus who mentioned that you don't know where to start. You're new, right? And this is also, it reminded me of a topic that fighting game communities can be intimidating when you first get into it. And is that something that is a small community less intimidating or more intimidating? Because I have quite the both experiences. I mean,
you want to ask first, or you don't want to go first?
Well, I can ask you the question, and then I can give my point of view. But I can also ask you, when you first entered the community, was it intimidating for you? Were you also overwhelmed, or how did you feel? What was your feeling then?
Which question exactly? My experience, or do I feel like in general they're more?
your experience when you first came to the community.
Okay, so my first experience, but I'm kind of a shy person, so it's always intimidating for me, no matter what you do. But I think I had less of an issue to get in because I already had an idea of what to expect. I learned about, well, I already knew about fighting games in Street Fighter 2 on Super Nintendo, but I had no idea about the community. So for me, fighting games were just button mashing games, basically.
Harris.
Yeah, heresy. Heresy.
Get him out!
So,
Get him out!
and then I saw a Core A gaming video about the mental part of it, how you adapt to people and how you can condition them, and then that made the click for me that there's maybe something else going on here. So I went in and I read up on a lot of more stuff, watched more Core A gaming videos, read stuff that people write about it. So already from the start, I had a learning mindset. I didn't just go in just to try it out. I already had like an idea of, okay, I want to try this out. I want to see if those theories are right. I want to see how far I can go. And when I first mentioned that I was interested in fighting games in Luxembourg, it was over the videogames.lu Discord, I believe.
I remember that day.
Yeah,
It's a
I
fateful
believe.
day.
And basically the reaction was, oh, you know what? Just come on over on the next meeting and we'll sort it out. And then I went there and you guys were there and you talked to me and you asked if you should play some games and then we just played around. So for me, it was more a welcoming experience rather than an intimidating one. But I have to say that I also went in with a learning mindset. So
Yeah,
I don't know if that changes a bit how you see it.
yeah, I also think that it's important, especially for a small community, but for every community, but especially for a small community to be welcoming, because you can't afford to be intimidating right from the start, because it will crumble in the future. So that's also a very important aspect that I put on myself. You know, when there's new people coming to the gaming cafe, showing some interest for fighting games, I always try to be welcoming. And it's not that I'm forcing myself to be welcoming. It's just why be a douche, you know? Because there are, in some communities there are gatekeepers, right? It's a common thing. So people that kind of prevent people to come to the community just because I don't know why the reasons, but
Basically,
yeah, it's an ego thing, right? It's like, you want to be part of us? Hey, do that combo, man.
Oh dear Lord.
Yeah, you are talking about like the intimidating communities, but I wanna hear Arturus's answer on that because you're fairly new,
yeah,
and you actually joined our community for later, I would
recently,
say.
yeah,
It's also recently,
recently,
in
exactly.
the later state, I would say.
Yeah, I think so.
Are
Yeah.
we intimidating or not? And you have to
I
be
mean,
careful what you say.
oh, it will be my last podcast, so now I can go at it, and like it will be the last. So anyway, uh, no, I think personally, I was always a fan of fighting games. It's just that I didn't have, maybe I don't know, like never joined a community probably because I've always played it like casually, but I was always a fan of it. And I was happy. I was very happy to join a community because you, like Mike said already. I mean, with him, you were like very, very nice and very welcoming, and it was amazing. I mean, I was impressed by how you tried to integrate everyone in the group. So it's awesome. But then again, yeah, I mean, intimidated it is already because I mean, you can see the gap between players, and it's like, sometimes I tell myself like, wow, when do I get, like, when is the time that I think that I could be like some kind of on that level? It's very impressive. It's impressive and intimidating at the same time.
Okay.
So yeah.
I always think because when I first joined, it was also intimidating for me. So
Yeah,
even,
actually.
so even before we became the community leaders, I remember Street Fighter 5 tournament. It was like was in Differdange. No, it's
Was
for
it that
people.
Willief Games one?
Yeah, the Willief Games one.
Shout outs to
No,
Willief Games, rest in peace.
yeah, and it was in Differdange, so it's a small city in Luxembourg, and in the south. And
For those
I
wondering.
was really nervous joining the tournament.
Yeah.
But we ended up. I ended up winning, and you became second.
Like always. I did an Alexane again.
Yeah. And from there we were a little bit relaxed because at the beginning I was really nervous, and it wasn't like it was a difficult match. I remember playing against Arcade Soldier. Arcade Soldier's Nash, so Nash season 1, of course, and it was really easy. And I was happy to win to win that match, but it was also intimidating. But I think joining a community in general is always a bit intimidating, especially a competitive one, because you think that people are like more, I would say, more aggressive. I would say.
Yeah, you can't read the mood immediately, right? So you're like, are they serious now? Will they accept me? And I had the same feeling as my brother. And even though we were I don't mean to brag, but we were one of the good players, right? But we were still intimidated. I still can remember when I saw Meister Zine in that same tournament, at the Differdange tournament, Willief Games, rest in peace. I saw him play Killer Instinct, and I saw that he played very well, right? And he was my first opponent in the Street Fighter tournament, and I was like, okay, that dude can play Killer Instinct. So my conclusion was, he's a god in Street Fighter 5 too, right? So I was actually nervous, yeah. But the first time I sat next to him, and he turned to me and he was like, "I'm free. I'm free in Street Fighter." I'm like, okay, is he messing around with me? But he really was not that great. Not to disrespect him in any way, but I beat him, and I was like, but it wasn't like. It was kind of welcoming then. He saw a new face, and he was like, "Don't worry, you know."
That's what
It
I
was-
was about to say. Yeah.
Yeah, and also your match against Arcade Soldier, Roberto, he was also very welcoming. So it's also a thing of if your opponent is already shaking your hands, and welcoming you, then talking with you like, oh, how long do you play? Do you have time for next week? Because next week we have the gaming cafe. You should come. It's just a welcoming thing, and so even though you can be somewhat nervous, it's good to have a welcoming community, and I'm really grateful that our community is very, very welcoming.
It's also really important for a small community, actually. So also to get to get people to stay too.
Well, I have to wonder though, because if you are in a smaller community, you said previously that the members of that community are tighter knit. They're way more
Close.
intimate, close. Yeah, close. I think I'm going to use close from now on.
Intimate sounds a bit weird, you know.
Yeah, it doesn't mean what people think it means, but it might give the wrong impression.
Yeah.
So I'm going to use close.
Luxembourg FGC is all about love, man.
So here's the question though, because I know that the small community, the Luxembourg FGC, is welcoming, but is it perceived as welcoming when you see the let's say 6-8 people who are playing all against each other, and they know each other so well that they start talking shit to each other, like in a friendly way. It's like, oh, you motherfucker, you did this.
I actually
so
have.
people get really excited about their own matches that it might seem less welcoming than it actually is.
That's actually the other example that I had, because I told you that I have good examples of people
Mhm.
that have been welcomed. One that also comes to mind is Yuri, right? He a very young player, and he came to one gaming cafe because he talked to Majin Saro, and they were playing Dragon Ball Fighter Z, and he came to gaming cafe, and he never left, right? He stayed ever since, right?
Raul Tor.
Yeah, so also very welcoming in this point. But there were some players that wanted to join. They wanted to play Street Fighter. I remember there were also some Dragon Ball Fighters players, but which I didn't see anymore. But I don't know if it's because of us or because of other reasons, right? I never had contact, so with those personally. So, but there are some instances where people left. Well, let's left or didn't stay, you know.
I
And
think
and more. Yeah, you wanted to add something?
if you're not finished.
I have just one example, one big example, and it's exactly what Sulfura had to say with Intimidation.
And then go ahead.
Yeah, it's there were also two brothers who played Dragon Ball Fighter Z, and they were fairly good. They initially played Marvel games, so of course Dragon Ball Fighter Z is also a hyper fighter, so they were familiar with that. And I kind of think they got kind of how do you say, they left the scene because of that same reason, because people were popping off, were a bit loud. I won't say disrespectful, but it was FGC trash talk, right? And I think they didn't like it, and I kind of regret that I didn't talk to them, and just to explain them, it's really not meant in a bad way. I also could have talked to other people and say, "Hi, keep it down a bit because they are fairly new. Just know that you can't do this with those people, but you can do this with other people, you know." But it's kind of difficult to kind of keep track on that, right?
And that's the thing I wanted to say. It's like, especially for someone, because Mike talked about he entered the FGC, the Lux FGC, with the knowledge of how the community is constructed, I would say. So how a community is practically. So
Yeah.
how the community be, you know. And yeah, but there's some people who just don't know how it works, you know, and this can be really intimidating.
Yeah. So intimidation and welcoming are two contrasts that have to be kind of you have to be welcoming and you have to intimidate as less as possible. Do you say that, as less as possible?
I think if you compare this with a big community, which is the contrast we're actually trying to make here with this podcast, if you're in a bigger community, you probably have a chance to see more versions, I want to say, of the fighting game community. Like, you have that group who is more calm, who likes to talk more than play. You have the group that is really, really competitive and they shout. You can hear them from like the other side of the room. And there is this group who likes to talk tech and stuff. So maybe if in a bigger community, you might have more different types of players. So you might find the kind of player who you like most.
Yeah. So you think that it's easier for a bigger community to be more welcoming because of those variety.
If you don't like this group because this group is talking shit to each other,
Yeah.
and then you see a different group who is also playing fighting games, but they're like friendly with each other all the time, and you prefer that, you have
The choice.
we have a way to enter in a way you
Okay.
prefer.
Okay,
I would say.
see. Yeah, yeah, I can see that. This is also, yeah, how do you say? This is also a very difficult point for small communities, right? Because if a small community is always intimidating, or tries even to be intimidating, it's gonna die out. So this is something that a small community can't afford to be. You know, and in a bigger community, you can be a bit loud, you can be a bit obnoxious. Of course, in the realm of respect, you know, not to go overboard, right? But yeah, I can see that. I can see that. So bigger community is also it's easier in that point. But then again, we have the
I still think though that small communities are more tightly knit.
which is a good thing.
Yeah, I think
Should be at
it's
least.
it's easier to have better
Yeah.
bonds, let's say.
Yeah. So my next point was actually, are there any differences between big and small? And I think we kind of mentioned them throughout our 40 minutes right now. So we said that, you know, a smaller community is tightly knit, so closer, people know each other better, so you could also focus on some things. In a bigger community, the advantages there are you have this variety of players, you can have more matchup knowledge. You know, if you have a game like Street Fighter, you want to play against a Rashid, you want to play against a Mika, you want to play against Karin, you are more likely to find those players in a big community, whereas in a small community you only have maybe one character, two characters, experts, and then you have to find tech for yourself, which isn't always an easy thing to do. But are there other differences that are it could be an advantage, could be a disadvantage. That's on you. But what are other differences between big and small community, of course?
Hey, what you
Oh,
talking
Lord.
about?
Hey, we're talking about intimacy, you
God.
know.
Oh God.
Just making sure, man.
Here we go again. Differences is small and big community. I think except for the character example you mentioned, a skill gap is definitely a one, because it's not only a matter of finding that Korean player to get matchup knowledge. It's also you find a Korean player who you can play with and
learn, yeah.
and learn, because like I said before, if you can learn from a stronger player up to a certain point. If the skill gap is too big and the other player is too good, all that other player does seems like magic. Like he presses the button and it always hits, and I don't know why. And you will not learn from that.
Mm.
That at that point, that other player has to go into teacher mode to really tell you what is happening
And tone it down, right?
and tone it down, and even play repetitive on purpose, so the other person can actually do the things you were teaching. So I think in a bigger community, not only do you have the variety of characters, but you also have the variety of the skill gap for the same character, probably even. So if you want to learn, maybe you ask this guy who is really, really good. But if you want to play, like test out your knowledge, I want to play this guy because he's a bit stronger than me, but not too much. And I want to play. I want to see if the stuff I learned works.
I see, and you also find you can easier you find opponents that have your same skill in a more easy way in a big community, right? But I think we have for certain games we have a nice variety for a small community though, and the game that comes to mind is Street Fighter for me. Do you agree?
I mean, character variations. You know, I mean,
I won't say
Right.
character variations because we don't have 30 people that play the 30 characters, right? But in terms of skill, you have every skill in our community.
I
You
think
have
up to platinum, we have pretty much every rank in our community.
yeah. So we are not very strong. I don't know the ranks, so do we have a diamond player? I don't know.
Oh, not yet. Not I'm working on it, but not yet.
Yeah, not yet. Then we're gonna get on it. But yeah, but I think in Street Fighter, and that's also the reason why if whenever we do a Street Fighter tournament, there's always kind of new people that join or people that I haven't seen for a long time in the community that kind of register for Street Fighter, right? And I think it's because they have more possibilities to win in that game. They say, okay, I know that this guy is also entering and he has the same level as me. I know that I can't beat that guy, but I can at least not go 2-0 this time, right? And I think with other games we don't have that.
I would disagree though.
Yeah.
The game that comes to mind is Tekken. You have a good variety of players in Tekken.
Yes.
And also, in a certain extent, Dragon Ball Fighter Z.
Dragon Ball
The, o-
Fighter
the, o-
Z.
the only games where the skill gap is just too big is the SNK games,
Mhm.
where we have Super Neely, who's really the strongest KOF player. Then there's both of us, and then there's no one. You know, and it's also really hard because we have players that are interested in playing King of Fighters 14, but it's really hard for them to get in because I mean you play against Tom and he bodies you with his fucking Q, you know.
You also have to say that Tom. You also have to say that Super Neely knows no mercy.
He knows no mercy. That's true.
He's just like, yo, let's play, and then he's gonna body you with his mains, and it doesn't let you jump. It just does pressure over again, and I'm like, man, he does that to me, you know, and I'm saying like, okay, when you do that to a newcomer, I mean, I kind of get why they kind of get I don't know, discouraged to play the game.
The one thing that Super Neely does though is he likes he explains you everything.
Yeah, but you have to ask. He just doesn't do it by himself. I don't know why. Just it's yeah, but that's also something that which is good advice for newcomers. They don't have to be afraid. But yeah, if from the outside we look like an intimidating bunch, then it's only natural that they don't wanna ask, right? But from my experience, I can't name one guy that wouldn't help one out in our community. I mean, if you ask Chris Vanek, he's gonna tell you. If you ask Super Neely, he's gonna tell you how it works. If you ask us, it's okay, right? There are no gatekeepers in our community, not that I know of.
Mhm.
If I get away with too much fake stuff, I will ask myself if you know how to beat it.
Yeah, that's Sulf.
I have a self-interest in that as well because if I do the fake stuff all the time, I build bad habits myself. So I want the other person to stop me from doing that. I think that might come back to a small community being tightly knit, where I think we kind of stop playing our characters and we start playing each other really as people. Because
it's like when we play Sam Show in Street Fighter 5, you know.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're trying to do, and you know what I'm trying to do is like just staring each other down, timer running out, trying to trick the other into doing the first mistake.
Yep.
Is it a good thing or a bad thing? Because do you learn?
It might be because so whenever I play against people, for a long time, I can know their habits. And I saw that recently with the Bison players. So I know I play Alexei's Bison,
Hmm.
and recently I played a Diamond Bison and a Platinum Bison. And all three play differently. Because all three use, or rather prefer, different tools of Bison. So while I was fairly good at against one set of tools of Bison, the other players did things with him that Alexei did not. So I was losing against that until I reorganized my thoughts and found the patterns there. Or rather, I lost against the Diamond Bison, but then I started winning against the Platinum Bison. So if you can play the other person, that's great for two people to have fun. But even within the same characters, you can have so many various play styles, and I believe that comes down to also player matchup. If you play long sets with someone, you learn the character well, but you do not. But you might have a false sense of confidence because other people might play that same character differently, and you might not be used to that, and you will lose because of that.
So actually, at the beginning, like in the bigger community, you have more. Let's say you have more Bison players.
Yeah, it comes down to variety, basically.
Yeah. So
Not only
you.
skill, not only characters and skill level, but also play styles. Because you have the patient players and you have the ones that go ham.
That's true.
So
is it actually
is it actually a disadvantage? Is it something that holds a community back then in a small community?
For me, it's like
if you well speak.
no, sorry. For me, it's like the same argument, like the number argument. You know, just because we don't have a lot of people, we are not able to learn from other playstyles. You know. So for me, it comes down to the same argument.
In my opinion, I think if you often play against the same person, and it's not going to be one same person, but a certain set of people that you always play against regularly, right? You start to look more at your opponent rather than at the character, which for me is a good thing because you are then how do you say, quicker to see someone's pattern because you had to see the other one's patterns. Whereas if you play always against different types of bisons, let's say, uh, it can be difficult to immediately grasp their pattern. But if you have enough time to get used to watch your opponent play rather than the character play, I think that can be an advantage. But it's not that easy to do, I believe, because it's one of the most difficult things you can do in a fighting game, reading your opponent. Because many people are like watching guides and say, okay, bisons tend to do this, and then the opponent doesn't do this. So okay, what should I do, right? Yeah, so I can also see this as an advantage. So this is an interesting point because as we are small and we as a community, well, for me it's a good thing, okay? Because I like to see fighting games. I like to see a variety of fighting games. I like to see people enjoying all sorts of fighting games. And in our community, we have, as I already mentioned, Dragon Ball Fighter Z players, Tekken players, Street Fighter players, KOF players, Samsho players. We also have people that play retro fighting games if they have to. We have almost everything, right? Guilty Gear also, you know. Dead or Alive, yeah. So you name it, right?
Mhm.
But if a small community wants to be strong, shouldn't they focus on just one game? And say, okay, Street Fighter is now our game. I'll take Street Fighter as an example, but could also be Tekken, right? Let's take Street Fighter. Let's focus on that. Let's do only tournaments for Street Fighter, so that we become better at Street Fighter. How do you see that?
I think that's a terrible idea. Because ultimately, it's kind of like learning for school. You have that topic that you love, and that one it's so easy to learn. You don't even need to revise stuff at home. But you have the topics you hate, and your body will just physically stop you from learning that topic because you hate it so much. And I think that you could achieve the same effect if you try to force one fighting game on the community. It's like, for instance, if you try to force Street Fighter on a small community, it's like all the people who don't want to play Street Fighter, they will just leave and play their game somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Is what I think would happen.
Let me ask a question to Actorus.
Mm-hmm.
How would you react if when you wanted to enter our community and you saw us only playing one game?
Yeah, I think hard to tell what it would like. For example, it would be a game that I wouldn't play.
Yeah, let's take a game that you wouldn't play or wouldn't like to play or are.
I think I would give it a try, and it all depends on the game. I think probably I would either I would like love it and stick with it, or probably like Mike said, I think I would just leave because, or not just leave, but probably not really focus on that much, because it's like different people, different choices. I mean, taste. I mean, so.
Yeah, but is it like sacrificing this variety for the sake of esports? For the sake of, because this is something that comes up when esports eventually becomes a thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because esports is not gonna do a tournament for every fighting game, right? We would have to choose the most popular ones, right? That's what I believe. I hope not.
True.
But in a perfect world, we could play every fighting game on Earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is something that you know my answer. The more the merrier. So I really don't give a shit what you play, right? You play fighting games, you are my friend. You are welcomed in our community.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But in terms of esports, we have to get the numbers, blah blah blah. Which fighting games do we pick?
I think if you want to play to improve one single game, you have to create a community just for that, because it wouldn't work otherwise.
For me, it's
And
like
you would be part of two groups, which is not forbidden in fighting game communities. You can be part of the group that just meets up every month and has fun and learns a bit on the side, but mostly for fun. And then you are also in the group who's like hardcore. You want to really improve, get those trophies, maybe. Who knows? And you go to that monthly meetup to play casually with friends, and then you go to your weekly meetup to actually train. So nothing is forbidding you to do both things at the same time. But I think it would be wrong to impose a competitive
point of view.
A competitive spirit into a community that doesn't want to be competitive.
Mm-hmm.
Or competitive at that point.
Or competitive to that point, because I know we have players who I think Gabe, shout outs to Gabe. I think Gabe brought in that Sailor Moon Super Nintendo game once. I don't know anyone who wants to be a master at that game. He just brought it for shit and giggles. He just brought it to have fun.
sounds like Gabe.
Was it Gabe or was it Trey?
I think it was Trey though.
I mean,
Was it Trey?
Shout outs.
Well,
Man.
shout outs to Trey as well.
I mean, shout outs to both the homies,
Fuck
right?
Gabe.
No. But yeah, you're right. Trey was again. He was the Joker of the FGC. You know. And for anyone who's listening and doesn't know who Trey is, he's not dead. I talk in past tense, but he left for Korea, so he's not. He's still part of the FGC, of the Luxembourgish FGC, always in our hearts. But he can't physically be at our events, right? And he was always the one who brought, the poverty games. He brought everything. He also brought that Fate game, that Fate fighting game. Right? I don't know how it's called, but it's from the Fate series, and everybody had a blast, right? And so in our community, I really see that people play for shits and giggles, right? But I also know that there are people who want to improve, and so some people may like that there is more of a focus of for a certain fighting game, and I think with esports we can have both sides, right? Like Sufura mentioned, the competitive side and the more casual side.
I think it's really important to have a community like we have now that just likes to play fighting games for fun, because at the end of the day, you can be very competitive for one game, which is great. It's not something that's false, but it's something that I also heard from the Smash community, because we also have our cousins, the Smash community, who are really not really part of our FGC, but are like siders, I would say, next to us. They're always organizing tournaments, literally next to us,
Yeah.
And I remember when they saw the final, the King of Fighters 14 final in Game Night again, Game Night 3, where Super Nearly won. One of them told me or told Alex saying,
Shout outs to Otek, right?
because it was Otek, yeah. There was something that let's say so Super Nearly won, and we were like jumping around, and we went there and we hugged Super Nearly. We also hugged Dracula, because he was also still a boy. And he turned to Alex and he said, "We don't have something like that." The warmth.
Which surprised me. It
Yeah,
surprised me because their community is way bigger than ours. Because it's
way
Smash,
bigger. It's way bigger. They are, I would say, they are more competitive, and I would say they are also
Stronger.
stronger, compared to us, and that's just something that I would say shocked me a little bit, and maybe that's, for me, that's the strength that we have. We have the passion. I don't want to say that the Smash community doesn't have passion, because they're really passionate, but there's not this warmth, the warmth isn't there. I would say it's there, but it's not that prominent.
You know what really surprised me for that moment is because we have, as I already mentioned, we have 3 active King of Fighters players.
Yeah.
Only 3, but the whole venue was watching the finals.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the non-KOF guys in our community, they sat down and they watched Super Nearly versus Dracula, and even the Smashers watched the King of Fighters. Most of them don't know. You know their reaction for Terry, right? So
it's kind of with the head.
No, I have to say that the Luxembourgish FGC wasn't, the Luxembourgish Smash community wasn't appalled by Terry. They were really accepting for Terry. They really like him. And
shout outs to them.
Yeah, great community as always. And yeah, but and I think this, you only achieve this because we have this love for fighting games, because we have those variety, and because we don't focus on just one game. Okay, because I think the people that that knew, okay, we have now the King of Fighters Grand Finals. They know how passionate we are about King of Fighters because we also go, we travel, you know, and
Traveled, I would say.
yeah, and we participate in CoF tournaments. So they know how passionate we are. So they just knew, okay, I have to watch this because it's Super Nili's game, and he's up against a German. So it's like also Germany versus Luxembourg. They know that Dracula always won in Germany against Tom.
Yeah, they're
So
the biggest rivals.
yeah,
That's
it was,
their
yeah, it
rivals.
was everything. The dots connected itself. It was great.
Planets align.
And then again, I only think that you get this with the variety that we have. Even though we are small, we play everything. And this is something. So I asked the question, but it was a trick question because you know that I want my variety, right? Um, but this is something that the neighboring countries they told me also. Let's take the French for example, the Guni for example.
Mhm.
He's a Tekken player. He knows that we play Tekken, but he also knows that we play everything. And he told me, from where he comes from, it's like, I don't find people that play Tekken. There are only people that play, what was it, Marvel and Street Fighter, I believe.
Mhm.
It was Capcom guys basically, right? And so this is an example of a community that only focuses on one or two games, or very few games. You don't have that variety, right? But he found that variety in the Luxembourg FGC. And even though he's one of the greatest players from France, he also just comes to our small monthly just to play, to even play Street. He also played Street Fighter. He plays King of Fighters. He tries out Soul Calibur. He likes that
Crash Team
variety.
Race.
Crash Team Racing. Yeah, that was, yeah, of course.
By the Crash Team Racing.
So I think that the small community really can benefit from a variety, and it's also something that the German always told us. Oh, you play everything. You play everything, because the Germans are also like us. They also play everything. And this brings me to the next topic. As I was talking about the neighboring countries, this is something. I don't know if it's small community specific, but it's specific for Luxembourg. Luxembourg is surrounded by 3 countries, and Luxembourg is a very small country. So we have a big advantage as a small community to get chunks of the other neighboring countries. I was talking about the Germans, I was talking about the French, and we also have the Belgians. And I think, in a way, we can consider ourselves not that small after all. Because we have the capacity to, to travel like what? Some few hours, and we are at FGC spot.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah.
And I would say that it's actually an advice that I can give to the Luxembourgers. I know that both of us, and also Mike, I'm sure, and also others from the community, we benefit a lot from just traveling and go get bodied in Belgium, go get bodied in Germany, and so this is something I always tell others: if you have the chance, if you have the opportunity, not now, of course, no, but travel, but not only in Germany, France, and Belgium, but you can go even further, and there you can see new play styles, you can learn more things, and then bring them back to Luxembourg to make your community stronger. I don't think it's specific for a small community, but maybe a small community considers it more than a bigger community, because in a bigger community you have the numbers. Maybe you don't have to travel to find a good I don't know, a good Josie player or a good, I don't know, Vice player or a good Jada player. I don't know. But for a small community, it's like, oh, I don't have a dancing player. But in the next tournament in Belgium, I know there's a dancing player that I can ask for advice or just have some sessions with.
Yeah, this is something that, especially because Luxembourg, so we have easy ways to get to big events. I mean, Brussels Challenge is like 2 hours away.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have Fight Club NRW is like also 3 hours away, 2 hours and a half.
Yeah, UFA 2.
We have Hessen Crash, which is a big event with a big variety of fighting games.
Mm-hmm.
We have UFA, 3 hours away, Paris, you know, and not counting the others like Celtic Throwdown, Head Stomper, I don't know. But I mean, in a very small distance, we have big events, and I think we have to take advantage of that. And more people have to travel, and we did. I remember a Brussels challenge where we went, oof, like 10 people, I believe.
I think we were 9, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. So yeah, and I mean, instead of going there and getting bodied and showing the people who you are, because you can't show people who you are because we are a small community. We don't have the experience, we don't have the matchup knowledge, we don't have the consistency. But it's very, very important to make connections, to build relationships with the Belgians, the French, the Germans, because it all comes around at the end of the day. I mean, the first Gameland, the Germans visited us because we also participated in a German event, Fight Club NRW, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So they knew, okay, I heard from those Luxembourgers, so they are a legit FGC. Let's try out Gameland, and well, they stayed. Also, they are in love with Gameland, which I always appreciate. So yeah, traveling is really, really, really important.
I would agree with it, but I don't know if that is specifically an advantage of a small community.
I mean, let's
Because
say a
the
small.
big communities also have advantages like that. They can go to other events, but I think that small communities like ours benefit the most from traveling
Mm.
Yeah,
because we
it's like
don't have that variety at home.
you don't have the luxury to stay at home.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to say. So, in a big community, if you are a fresh beginner, you know, you can say, okay, I don't have to travel. I have strong players here, you know, so you are more in your comfort zone. In a small community, it's like, okay, I want to get better, but I can't get any better because I don't have the matchups. I don't have people that teach me. So I have to go out. And as you said, it benefits the small community the most because traveling really helps you also see other play styles. I can say that the French play a lot different than the Germans, or the Belgians have another style, or also in terms of taste for fighting games, or also of play styles. You know, it's very interesting to see. But yeah, I agree that yeah, I didn't want to say that big communities don't travel, but I surely agree that it benefits the most. Any other things to add for traveling? How about Actor Roos? You didn't have much time to travel, right?
No.
Is it
Unfortunately,
something? Is it something that you want to do eventually?
definitely. Yeah. I mean, I would love to, like in a group, going together, and then just visiting, and then yeah, I mean, meet new people, and then like very different kind of people. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
it's also
I have.
like yeah.
No, go ahead. Sure,
No, no,
sure.
no, 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 no. Go ahead.
No, it's like because like I mean I have like right now it's like very limited knowledge, but probably I will will get used to someday, you know, like the playstyle of other people. And then again, you know, like it's funny then to experience probably the fact that, you know, you think you know how certain characters are played, and then, you know, you go to different places, then you see like, whoa, that's totally different, you know.
Yeah, it's very exciting thing even.
Mm-hmm.
So the last point I wanted to say is solutions about getting good. You know, we're talking here about getting good in a small community. We already gave one solution, which is traveling. Of course, if Corona lets us do that. But what are the other solutions to for a small community? I know we touched on that a bit. We said, okay, as a community, we have to be welcoming. We can't afford to be intimidating. We can't afford to be gatekeepers because otherwise we would die out immediately. But for the player themselves, we said travel, and what can they do if they don't find this teacher type, if they don't find somebody that can help in the community? What are your thoughts?
I already have my solution, which works for me, which is I joined a bigger community, but online.
Yes.
So because I am in a small community, fighting game community, there is only so many things that I can learn, and learn by doing. If I want to get better, I have to look somewhere else, basically, or I have to lab the things myself, and even then, I have to see how the opponent reacts to it. If the opponent doesn't react to the stuff I'm labbing, even then I will not improve, even if I find solutions for myself. So in a way, you're kind of limited if you are one of the top players, even in your specific area. If you're not a top player, then ask the top player in your local community to help you out until you reach the point where he can no longer help you. And then the only solution I have there is to find a community who has a stronger player and then ask them what to do.
Yeah,
and play against them.
Expand, right? It's like
Expand, yeah.
you can. I mean, we live in a world of internet and interconnectivity, we say. So yeah, I mean.
So I am
gotta take advantage.
in the Discord called New Challenger,
Mhm.
which has coaches for a lot of fighting games. I don't know how many. I know they have DBFZ, they have Street Fighter for sure. That's the one I'm in all the time. They have Show, SNK games, Arxis games, and I spend my time not only telling other people the stuff I know, but also listening to other people's problems. So I get a perspective even on that. What are their problems? What are they trying to do? And I might even learn something just by reading other people talk about their problems. So it's not only just learning directly yourself, but you can even just listen to other people talk and see what they're about. It's like, oh, I do this shimmy, and then someone else asks, what's a shimmy? Oh, it's when this, and so you can learn without even asking a single question, just following what other people are saying.
Yeah, so even the beginner can be a teacher in some way, right? So because you see his perspective on things, which you as a strong player didn't think about first. You say, okay, maybe for a character type that you don't play, you see their perspective, you see the struggles for people that play a charge character, for example, and then you can also learn something from that.
Well, there's actually a thing I learned because I had a lot of issues with charge characters, and I heard actually a person complain about holding charge, and he said, "Well, he's not coming to me, so I have to go to him, and then I lose charge." And then someone else said, "Well, that person is playing correctly then." And it didn't register with me at the time that I can make a charge character lose charge by forcing him to come to me. So I don't have to be afraid of scissor kick from Bison, for instance, if I see him walking forward.
That's why you
It's
always
something-
do that.
It's something. It's something that it's obvious if you think about it, but it's something that you might not think about if you don't have the idea of charge characters in your mind. So just listening to that discussion, I learned a specific weakness of charge characters just by listening in on that discussion.
Yeah, so,
So just listen to other people speak in that community can help you out just as much as asking questions directly. The other thing, and it is more specific for your own community, even if it is a small one, don't hoard your tech. Don't keep it to yourself, because you will build bad habits. You think it will work all the time, and then you meet someone who knows the gimmicks, and he will kick your ass. And I think it's way better to share the tech, to teach other people how to beat your stuff, because not only do you make the other person stronger and you gain a new training partner to play with, but you also force yourself to not rely on the same thing all the time.
yeah, and finding new solutions.
Finding new solutions all the time.
And eliminating bad habits.
And eliminating bad habits. If I spam Rasenna, I'm learning nothing from it. But if I tell you how to beat it, I cannot use it anymore, and I have to use something different.
Yeah, it's like a simultaneous grow, you know?
Yeah.
You can grow even if you're the stronger player, but you're only the stronger player because of some habits. And once they are, how do you say, eliminated, you grow, yeah. Also, keep the ego away. Yeah, it's like in a small community we can't afford having people with big egos.
Confidence is great.
Yeah, confidence
Yeah.
is great, but there's a difference between ego
I
and
mean,
confidence.
don't pop off against weaker players. But I don't know if this is advice or just an experience. But if you are beating a new player, try to not complain too much about your own issues, which is something I had to learn for myself as well. So, because I am in Street Fighter 5 at a platinum rank, my goal is to get diamond. So I watch diamond players, and everything they do that I cannot do is something I complain about. It's like, how can they be so consistent with hit confirms? And then I start complaining about my own hit confirms, because compared to them, they're shit. So I complain about them. But then when I play against a weaker player and I beat him, and then I still complain about my hit confirms. I mean, sure, my hit confirms are still not good, but you're kind of beating on someone who is feeling bad because he lost, and you're saying that you played bad, so that kind of hurts double.
Damn.
So you're beating a dead horse, actually.
Adding salt to the wound.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's, even if you're not doing it consciously, just be aware of it.
Bear in mind that you. Okay, I see. Okay.
So you win the first to 10 and you're like, oh, that was a bad day, man.
Exactly.
The other guy's like, what did I do wrong?
Did you have any experience similar to this, Actos?
No, I mean, yeah, kind of like, yeah, between. I mean, back then, yeah, playing casually, probably with other friends, but it was like it was limited. It was very limited in that regard. So, yeah, but I can't. I think I could imagine. I mean, I complain always about stuff I do when I play, so I can imagine doing myself. So I think it's sometimes you have to just someone needs to tell you that it's like a very bad habit. So just that you keep it in mind in the back of your head, just to make sure that not to do it someday.
I see.
It can be annoying.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about solutions. I think this is one big solution, especially for a small community. I mean, expanding because you have the possibilities now. You gotta take the opportunity and ask other people. I think we can wrap it up. Yeah, I believe we had a nice discussion. I appreciated it.
Yeah, it was very interesting.
Yeah, it was some kind of eye-opening in some parts for me too. I mean, it's always nice to compare those things. It's something that I always have in my mind because we are a small community. I am the community leader, so I'm like, okay, what can we do to get bigger? Is it welcoming enough? What should I do? So it's always nice to get this out of my chest. So yeah, if any of the listeners have something to add, you can always do that on the comment section. We would love to see your opinion on that. And yeah, without further ado, I can say we can finish this now.
And wrap it up.
Yeah, we'll see you on the next vglu or videogames.lu podcast.